everyone, Flaming Footy here and welcome back to another video on the channel. And today guys, here we go again, reacting to my 2022 AFL season predictions. Yeah, this is not going to be very fun, but we're going to go ahead and do it anyway, see what some of the calls I made. I know other YouTubers have already done this already, but look, I want to do it too. It's going to be some fun reacting to my season predictions. I did add a couple of new things into my season predictions, so we're going to react to them as well. I guess we'll do the awards as well. Yeah, definitely didn't get any of them correct, I don't think. But anyway, let's go ahead, hop right into the video. So here we go. This is what's going to be included. The medals: Brownlow, Norm Smith, Coleman, Rising Star, ladder review, minor premiers, wooden spoon, finals, premiership winners, risers and sliders. So we're just going to go ahead, hop into the video, wait and see when it pops up. So there we go. Oh no. First call is the Gold Coast Suns. I think everyone picked the Gold Coast Suns, to be completely honest, for 18th. Again, I just didn't think they were going to have a great year because of their list. They don't have a great list, but they defied all the odds 100%. And they had their best season in club history. I'm not sure whether it was their best finishing ladder position, but this was their best season. They played some really good footy this year at times. They were a good team. 17th North Melbourne. I'm happy with that call. That is a good call. I did think they were going to be pretty bad again this year. Really good call by me. I'm super happy with that tip. That's almost perfect. Just one off the correct call. But yeah, I didn't think there was going to be much hope for North Melbourne either this year, even though they did have some really good inclusions like pick one. But pick one doesn't mean you're going to change your list in a heartbeat. I didn't think they had a lot coming for them, did North Melbourne, this season. I've got no idea what's happening here. I don't know why I'm going back to the Gold Coast Suns. So 16th is the Adelaide Crows. I did think they were going to finish inside the bottom four. They ended up finishing 14th. So far, I've actually got 2 out of 3 calls. Actually pretty good. Now, the Crows, they played a lot better than a 16th place side this year. They were really good. They fought out a lot of games right until the end. They never gave up. They did end up losing a fair few games, though, at the end of the game where they were tied. But, man, they actually had a really good season, did the Crows. So 15th, they had the Pies, and I wasn't going to put them any higher than 15th, but man, they did. They finished 4th in the end in the top 4. They had a really good season. They won 11 in a row. I tipped them to finish 15th. I think a lot of people tipped them to be low. I think I was one of the highest people to actually tip Collingwood to finish the highest, or one of the highest, which was 15th, to be completely honest. But oh man, they just got on a winning spree this year. 14th is Hawthorn, one spot off the correct margin. That is devastating. One spot off. They ended up finishing 13th. However, towards the back end of the year, they were playing like a bottom 4 side, to be completely honest. They had a few better wins at the start of the season because, yeah, if I hadn't have tipped them, if I had have, I reckon I would have been right with 14th if I had have lost a couple more games at the start of the season. Sadly, though, was a bit wrong with that call, but one spot off, you got to take that. Hawthorn, though, they definitely didn't have the greatest of seasons either. So 13th was West Coast. I did expect them to drastically fall throughout the season. Not too much, though. They finished 9th last season. And, yeah, I tipped them to go 13th. They ended up finishing 17th and had 2 wins. However, if they would have finished about 13th, they would have had about 8 or 9. So, quite far off the tip there. I've already got quite a few close to on the money. Yeah, this one's, even though it's 13th, 17th, not too far away, but nah, this one is definitely well off. West Coast, they had a poor season. They just don't have a great list anymore, and I definitely do see them being around that bottom again, potentially next year. Now, 12th is Carlton, which is quite a disappointing call because they were never going to finish 12th. They started the season 8-2 and they were never going to finish 12th. Bit of a disappointing call, this one. Yeah, I definitely think that I did underrate Carlton. I do think they personally should have made the top 8. But I was close to the tip. But yeah, to be completely honest, I still feel like 9th and 12th can be regarded as still quite a fair way away from each other. But Carlton, they started off the season 8-2 and then just from there on just had a massive fall to miss the 8. Now, 11th was St Kilda, and they ended up finishing 10th. So this is another really good call by me. Look, again, for St Kilda, they've just been seeming to hover around this kind of position. They've never really done too great to be completely honest. Like they just hang around this position, I feel. They don't have a top 8 contending list, I feel. I don't feel like they contend with some of the top 8, like Fremantle, Richmond, for now anyway. Of course, trade period's going to change that, but yeah, I just don't think they have the greatest of lists to really contend with some of the best of the best. Now, 10th is Essendon. Not a great call by me. However, I'm really happy that I didn't put them any higher. I was debating to really put them and the Giants in the top 8. Really glad I didn't put the Bombers in the top 8 because they ended up finishing 15th. Very, very, very long way from each other. Essendon started off the season like 1-4 or something like that. It was really, really poor. And yeah, Essendon, when you actually look at their list, they don't really have a great list. They do have some players of X Factor like Jake Stringer and Darcy Parish, Zach Merritt, but are they game winners? Not really. Jake Stringer can be a game winner, but they do seem undermanned. So I do feel like, again, it was a bit of a bad call putting Essendon in 10th anyway, but sometimes you do have to go dive a little bit deeper to find out their list, and yeah, not a great call here. Now, I'm happy but also not happy with this call because I'm really happy that I didn't put the Giants in the top 8, but I'm also not very happy that they ended up finishing this high on my ladder positions. Somehow, they ended up finishing 16th. They had a very, very, very bad season. Everything just went wrong for them, did the GWS Giants. I put them in 9th, and I don't think they're going to be contending for the top 8 for a little while, to be completely honest. They've got an exodus looming, and yeah, this is a poor year for them. And they are going to have a good draft hand if Taranto and Hopper end up walking to Richmond and Bobby Hill to Collingwood and Tanner Bruin to Geelong. They'll have a good draft hand, but you got to wait with the drafted players. So we're going to be kicking off 8th with the Fremantle Dockers into finals, and not a bad call. The Dockers did end up finishing 5th, and they had a really good run at the top 4 for most of the season. However, that draw with Richmond didn't, in the end, prove costly. But I do feel like 8th for the Dockers was a pretty good tip after. We didn't really know how well they were going to do this season. We thought they were going to come back into finals, but we weren't quite sure where. On the spectrum of probably 6 to 8 for me as to where they were going to finish. I did go 8, but they did end up, again, proving a lot of us wrong this year and went a lot higher than 8th. I know that a fair few others had Dockers around 8th position as well, but they went a lot higher and were very unlucky to miss out on the double chance in top 4. 7th was Richmond, and I got that one bang on the money. That is really nice to see. I've had some really close calls this video, and this one is definitely the best, having Richmond in 7th. Oh man, that feels really good to have one correct, finally, because I've had some really close calls in this video, being one off for a fair few teams, and this is finally very deserving. 7th are Richmond. I called this absolutely perfectly. Got it bang on the money. Yeah, Richmond, their best and worst are drastically separated. They played snippets of both of those types of footy throughout the year, but man, I'm happy that I got this one bang on the money. Now, 6th is Geelong. Not the best of calls. They were eventual premiers. I just thought with an ageing list that they were going to start to slide down the ladder, and I'm not sure whether that's still going to happen in the next couple of years because of that ageing list, because we do know that they do have plenty of ageing players, and some players may even retire this year because they've won a flag and they've done that goal. They do have some youngsters coming in, and the additions of Ollie Henry and Tanner Bruin could be really big. De Koning is such a bright prospect, so they do have some really nice young blood coming into the side as well, which is going to be really key in the future for the Cats. 6th, they ended up finishing 1st on a current 16-game winning streak. Yeah, I think they did go a lot further than what some people tipped. But yeah, not the greatest a tip by me, but I did still get them in the top 8, which was, thankfully, I didn't put them any lower than 6th. Now, 5th is Sydney, and I'm actually pretty happy with this call. This is a good call by me, because I feel like at times they did play like the 5th place side. They did end up finishing inside the top 4 in 3rd position. But look, they were a good side throughout most of the year, and it was really those back ends rounds, sort of like 17 to 23, where they really got their season, well, 17 to about 23, they really got going, and that's what propelled them into the top 4. Otherwise, they probably would have finished in 5th, and I would have had another one bang on the money. But yeah, those last few rounds of the season really propelled them into the top 4, and that's what helped them get through to a grand final. But again, though, I'm not too mad over this call. This is still another pretty decent call by me. Now, this call is a disappointing one. Port Adelaide in 4th, and I think a lot of people did have Port Adelaide in this sort of area. They dropped off dramatically, and after that 0-5 starts to the season, they were not going to be coming back from that. They were not going to be making finals at all. Their finals hopes were done after the first 5 rounds anyway. Well, not necessarily finals hopes, but their top 4 hopes were gone. Compared to like the other competitors like Geelong, Melbourne, Sydney, yeah, they were a fair way off. A very poor year from the Power, one of their worst that we've seen in a little while. Disappointing season from them. 4th spot, a poor tip. At the start of the year, probably a really good tip. But yeah, after that 0-5 start, there was no bouncing back from there. So now in 3rd position, I have the Brisbane Lions, and they did end up finishing 6th, but that top 4, well, that 2nd to 6th range, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, was a very, sorry for that background noise, was a very, very, very close sort of race, that 2nd to 6th, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, because the teams were just so close, and points was very close. Percentage was the only thing that was separating these teams. Now, Brisbane, they sometimes had a few not so great games, but again, though, how close the top 4 race really was, I'm still not saying this was too bad of a tip at all. Now, this is a bad call. The Western Bulldogs did end up finishing 8th, but they did not really play like the 8th place side. They had some really bad games. The Western Bulldogs, some really bad games. Lost to some really bad teams throughout the season. Look, I just thought the Western Bulldogs were going to go again and have a chance to win the premiership again. They have a good list, but no, that was just a bit of a reality check for all of us and the Western Bulldogs this year. I think their chances of making finals next year are a bit doomed, to be completely honest. Some of their real good players like Bonds and Pelly are carrying injuries, and their defence is poor. They don't really want to defend either. So this was not a bad call considering how well they did last year. But yeah, the fallout from that grand final loss against Melbourne has really made this call look quite bad. And first have the Demons, and I mean, look, what are you meant to say about the Demons? Of course, pretty much everyone had them finishing first. We thought they were all going to go back to back. That didn't end up happening because of Geelong, how so good they were. But the Demons still had a really good year and ended up finishing 2nd, so I'm not too mad about that tip either. So out of how well I did on the top 4, this is a pretty poor looking top 4. Melbourne was the only team that actually ended up finishing in the top 4 out of these. And then again with the bottom 4, North Melbourne were the only side that ended up finishing in the bottom 4. So something that I introduced to be a little bit new and a little bit different this year was a riser and a slider section where I picked a real riser, well, a couple of real risers actually, and a real slider based on the 2021 ladder to what I predicted in 2022. And to be completely honest, I feel like I did get these pretty well bang on. West Coast, they had a massive slide, and Richmond and Fremantle both had some really big rises from their 2021 campaign to their 2022 campaign. So again, this one was almost a bit too easy to make these rises and sliders. But again though, I'm counting that. Good job, me. Now, I think just about everyone picked Marcus Bontempelli for the Brownlow medal. He was carrying a stack of injuries throughout the year, so he was never really going to win that. Coleman, Harry Mackay, not too bad. I thought he was going to go back-to-back. He does know how to kick plenty of goals. I didn't think that was too bad of a call either, but his teammate Charlie Curnow ended up winning. But he still got a stack of goals, did Harry Mackay in season 2022. Now, for my rising star, which that will just be popping up just in a minute. Let's just go forward into the video. I'll pause and see there. Not the greatest of calls, Jason Horne-Francis. He was pick number 1. And, yeah, pick number 1's never really... I mean, pick number 1's can be the rising star, but, yeah, Nick Dacos, after his really first few round performance, yeah, he was definitely already crowned after round 3 or 4. Now, my grand final ended up being Melbourne versus Sydney. It ended up being Geelong and Sydney. But, yeah, again, I thought Melbourne were going to go back-to-back. And then for my Norm Smith medalist, that one was... let's just wait for this to finish up. But, yeah, sadly, that was Christian Petrarca. Was my Norm Smith medalist. And, yeah, that wasn't a great call either for me in that one. So there we have it. That is my 2022 AFL season predictions all reviewed. Some pretty poor calls, but yes, very happy with that Richmond one. That was perfect. Bang on the money, and there was plenty others as well that were close to bang on the money. So thank you guys all so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so then you guys never miss another video on the channel. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Bye everyone, Flaming Footy out.